Hey, it's Dave. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, so hope everyone's having a good weekend. I just finished mowing the lawn. It looks like I just woke up, but I actually showered before I went out, and now I'm going to have to take another shower shortly because I have a gig this afternoon. In Brookline, FM station has a outdoor gig, which should be great. We're looking forward to it. Last night, AM station played in Randolph at Rocco's, formerly Nunzio's, formerly Vito's. It's a tough place, I tell you. On the menu, they got broken leg of lamb. No, that's enough Rodney for today. But anyways, so it's we have that gig today, and then and tomorrow I get to relax. Yay! No student, and then Monday going back to the teaching grind. So, anyways, I wanted to talk a little bit about teaching and a little bit about communication. So when I came out here back to Massachusetts and started going to the jams, I think that was like around 2014. I started hitting the jams that summer, and it was interesting because people will call off keys to songs that aren't the keys to songs. They're just the root note. And you get pretty right away, you get the feeling that you got to do the work yourself because nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. And that's fine. I mean, it's expected. I shouldn't say that I didn't expect it, but like, when somebody calls off the key and they say it's in the key of A and there's a G in the progression, I'm just like, yeah, we're not in A. So, and I'm going to do a video coming up about how to memorize the keys, what notes they are, and all that fun stuff. I really just wanted to talk about communicating. So, in today's world, when we go on the internet and we see people constantly make mistakes grammatically, and that's why we have the grammar police. And people make jokes about people that correct it, but the reason is because it really bothers most of the people. If you see the word there, the contraction they are, in place of where the possessive should be, THEIR, or with THERE, there, it drives me bananas. And it just drives me nuts. And I just think that most people it bothers, but it's actually just a lack of communicating. And I think that communication is key, and in music as well. In other words, so I've recently, watched a few people that I know who do lessons online, and I like to see what they know, and I like to see if maybe something I can learn from it or not. And when I hear somebody refer to the A flat after we've just discussed we're in the key of E, I just stop watching because I'm just like, this person should not be teaching anybody anything. They don't even know the simple first part of communicating in music. Why the reasons we call them A flat or G sharp. If let's just say if we were in the key of D, right? So we can just tell by looking at a piece of sheet music, or somebody just says we're in the key of D, that F and C are sharp. Those will be the two sharps. We don't have G flat and we don't have D flat. We have F and C sharp. So every time we get to an F or a C, we sharp it. So therefore, even in just communicating, if I tell you, hey, we're in the key of D and the riff goes A, B, C, D, I don't have to say C sharp because the C is sharp. So you just assume when I say we're in the key of D and the notes are A, B, C, D, that it's a C sharp. Now, if I said it's A, B, C natural D, well, now you know I've made it natural to you, so you can. And that's really a common way to communicate amongst musicians that know how the keys work. You don't have to sit there and call off every sharp once you announce what key it's in. So therefore, if we're in the key of E and there are four sharps, F, C, G, and D, the G is sharp. We're not flatting an A. We're not flatting a 4. We're sharping a 3. We're sharping that note that would land on the third position, which is it's G sharp. Not that we're sharping the 3, but for the 3 to be a proper 3, it's a G sharp. Anyways, that's the whole point I'm making. It's like it drives me bananas when people don't get it right. And I don't care how old you are, and I don't care how long you've been playing. If you don't know what they are, learn them. It's not too late to learn, and it's always good to learn. I mean, what are we going through life for? It's like it's a learning experience. So learn. I'm constantly looking up stuff to learn. I'm on YouTube. I go through books. I like to learn music stuff. There's stuff when I figure out, I'll tell you what's great, who I really love watching. If you get a chance, go on Ted Green. He has a YouTube page, but he's passed away for years now, but somebody's posted these Ted Green videos. And Ted Green discusses music, and it's really super interesting. And his knowledge of chords and keys, his cross knowledge of, like, let's say, like, he talks about the key of A has three sharps, F, C, and G. And if you go to A flat, F, C, and G are the only natural notes. I mean, just really cool things to help you get by in that whole area. It's just great. But I'm always learning, and I'm always watching Ted Green. I think there's another great player, Tim Lurch, out of, I think he's out of Portland area, or maybe even Seattle. I'm not sure. I know he's on the Pacific Northwest. Fantastic player, just great. And you can learn from these players. And, recently I've seen a guy, and he's a friend of mine, and he posted a video, and he's playing an E9 chord. And he's talking about soloing over it. And he's soloing in B minor pentatonic, and he's making a big deal about, I can solo. Here's a B minor lick. And it's like, well, the B minor pentatonic is also the 2 of A. The E9 is the 5 of A. It's all in the same key. It's not like this is some great grand thing. It's great and grand if you're trying to separate, which is where I have a problem with. People separate modes, and they're like, "Oh, this is great because this is this lick is in B Dorian, but the chord is in E Mixolydian," and it's like, yeah, it's the same key. It's the same 7 fucking notes. You know what I mean? Is 3 sharps, F, C, and G. And then of course he starts calling notes flats, and we're in this sharp key. I can't listen to this because this person should not be teaching until they just simply look at some simple stuff, which is the real basic stuff. They're getting way, way too involved in some of the minutia instead of really getting involved in like the simple communicating of it. Now, this kid's a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic player. But communication is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, there's a lot of great players that don't know what the piss to call anything. And that's fine. And I love that some people cling on to that because they're like, oh, so-and-so never learned how to read a note. Yeah, so you shouldn't have to do anything. That was successful from the time they were 19. They've been, they had a record deal. They've been making albums. They're great songwriters. And you want to compare yourself to that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why? That person didn't learn anything. Well, yeah, that person, but also has a great, talent to write music. And which I don't really want to call, well, it can be a talent, but it's a craft. And, they have a deeper understanding of some things. And not everybody does. I know there's a guy that that's from around here, and when I talk to him, which hasn't been for years because it just drove me nuts, he'll always say to me, well, I don't know what that is, but I know how to do it. And I'd watch him play, and I'm like, yeah, you don't. You don't know how to do it. You don't have that understanding. You can play what you play. I mean, like, if Tony Iommi didn't have Black Sabbath, Tony Iommi's not doing sessions for people. You know what I mean? He's not that guy. And that's fine. But if you're banking on being in a band and you've got a band since you were 19 or 18 and you're out there, and I say that because the business is really for the young people. A guy like me ain't getting a fucking record deal no matter how fucking great my band is because they look at me and be like, well, you're old. But a kid that's 20 that's got, not as good a band but has the energy and that they see that as an investment. So if you have delusions of grandeur and you think you're in your 40s and 50s and you think you're going to get a record deal, God bless you. You know what I mean? I got a reality train coming down the pike for you that you're not going to like, but whatever. I mean, of course, unless you want to put masks on like ghosts and nobody knows who you are, how old you are, and all that fun stuff. But that's, that's another gimmick altogether. But in the reality of life, I mean, unless you're playing country music, you're not really going to have a later career. Um, it's just whatever. It is what it is. I mean, you can there's always these anomalies. I don't want to say everything's definite, but the odds are greatly against you, and the laws of probability are as well. So, but what I'm saying is it's always good to learn stuff, and it's good to go into a situation to know it. I do want to say, so like, because I come down a lot on modes and whatnot, and I don't think that it's a bad thing to know your seven. There's 21 modes you really probably should know, which would be your major, your harmonic minor, and your melodic minor. So that would be 21 modes. That would be all right to know. But to communicate them is a different thing. I don't think it's ever bad to have the knowledge and to know it. I mean, I know it. And therefore, I feel like it's okay to push it aside because I know it. I just don't think that it's of a value to communicate. When somebody sits there and says to me, this is Mixolydian, I know exactly what they say, but instantly in my head, I'm translating it back to the key. I'm saying, oh, it's A Mixolydian, it's the key of D to me. Because that puts me into a place where I know I see everything, I see all the chords, it puts me into a better place. And musically, when you look at a piece of sheet music, you see the key right on the, right where the time signature is. You'd see how many sharps, and you can see and be like, oh, okay, there's 3 sharps. I mean, the page could be halfway across the room. I see 3 sharps. I know it's in the key of A. You know what I mean? I see 2 flats. I know I'm in B flat. So it doesn't matter. But I'm not sitting there trying to calculate the mode. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just the mode doesn't matter to me. And the other thing is, like somebody said, about learning the songs and the positions. And I don't even think that's necessary because I think, like, let's say if we took the key of G or E minor, when you play E minor, you can play it from the E, from the D, from the C, from the B. You could start it on any one of those notes and you'd know all the positions and you know how it feels. And therefore, so if you're on the C and you're playing an E minor, that's C Lydian. What's the difference? But you don't have to start on that note. Once you know where all the notes are, well, then you can create a melody. And it's funny because I was watching like this Pat Martino video, and Pat Martino was showing like this melody thing, and then he's like, oh, and you can also add this. And it's like, well, that doesn't sound good to me. And yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, you can add it, but you can also not add it. Thanks. You know what I mean? When we play music, I just don't see the trickery of knowing, like, oh, and then you can also do this, and this comes from the diminished from before it. And I'm like, yeah, it just doesn't sound good. Like, music is about melody. And which is probably why I've never heard Pat Martino's music. You know what I mean? And when I did go listen to it, because afterwards I looked it up, I was like not impressed. It would be nothing I would ever listen to. Now, he's a brilliant teacher and he gives people lots of ideas. I think for me, Ted Green is more who speaks my language to me. Like when I hear him speak, it's so much more about the voicings of chords and melody and beautiful melody. And with Pat Martino, it's like, well, I can do this. This comes from this and this comes from this. And I'm like, yeah, no. Music's about melody. It's about communicating. One of my favorite players is on piano is Bill Evans for jazz. God, I can't remember the name of that Miles Davis song on Kind of Blue that he plays that intro on, but it's all those beautiful. I mean, he is like there's a pianist Matt Rawlings that calls like this beautiful style, eclectic style, where he plays a jazzy, real feeling thing, and Bill Evans is like the master of that as well. And I just don't think that you can quantify it or put a label on and say this is because that this is what it is, because Bill Evans just has a feel that when he plays piano, and he has such a way to communicate to you either his pain or his sadness, in the voicings he chooses, and I mean, I just think he's a great communicator. Whereas some other players, to me, may not come across that way. You know, there's a girl that has a page, and I don't want to throw her under a bus because I think she's very good, and I think she went to Berkeley, and she's out in California now, and she does these videos where she plays pianos and talks about jazz standards, and I watch it, and I'm just like, yeah, I just don't like the way you play. I don't like your voicings, and the touch just doesn't do it for me. And it's like, and I'm sure she's a huge Bill Evans fan as well. And it's just, it lacks that touch. And I was lucky I got to work with, two pianists I can think of that have this fantastic touch. One is Lee Carreri. If you've ever seen the movie Fame, he played Bruno in Fame. He has one of the best touches on a piano. I mean, you can say to Lee, I want it to have this type of feel. And, you know, when you communicate with him and he understands you, it's just, he just plays it. And he's great. And he's also just a great guy, but also a brilliant musician. And the other was Matt Rawlings. Matt Rawlings, once you kind of get inside his head a little bit and understand the terms that he calls things, when we did a session together, he was playing something, and I was like, yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. And he could see, because he could see the disappointment in my face. He was like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, what do you call that intro that you did to North Dakota? And he was like, oh, you want eclectic. And so now he's playing, and it's like he's pulling it right out of my head. I mean, it's like, and he's just awesome. But then, like, there was another song, and I was like, and I described it to him. I said, I'd like a saloon type. And he played it, and I was just like, yeah, it sounds like a saloon, but that's not what I want. And he was like, asked me to describe it, and I said there was a song by Steve Wariner. And he asked me, once I gave him the song, he was like, I think I played on that. He's like, you want old-timey. And I'm like, all right, let's try old-time. And then again, One Take Charlie. The guy was just unbelievable. So between Matt Rawlings and Lee Carreri, I was lucky to work with two brilliant players. And it's a blessing. And the thing about it is, when you do that, you get a bigger understanding of how you should come across. When you work with brilliant people, you're like, oh, well, then I should probably learn some of that, because you want to be to that level. You also want to be able to communicate the way these guys can communicate instantly. And I think that's what people don't realize about session players. So when I make comments about, like, Larry Carlton, Steve Wariner, Louis Shelton, when I make comments about these guys, you don't realize these guys are going into the studio never hearing the material, and instantly have to hear it, connect to it, and come up with a part that's original, unique, and that's going to be part of the song for the life of that song. When you hear the song I Want You Back by the Jackson 5, and you hear that brilliant guitar intro, and all the slide downs, that's Louis Shelton making it up on the spot. That's a guy who can see the sheet music or see the chart, hear the song, and able to communicate and add to it. And I don't think that everyone can do it. Forget about the fact. And people can be sitting there at home, and if you're listening to this and watching this, you're going to go, yeah, but I can't do that, and I don't want to do it. It's about trying and about bettering yourself as a player. I mean, isn't that why we are on YouTube and we watch people's videos, and you're sitting here now, is because we enjoy the guitar, we love it so much, we love music, and we want to somehow evolve and become better players. And so it's funny, because I always hear people talk poorly about, like, people that can't read, or people that can't now, I'm not a great reader, so I don't want you to automatically think this kid can read too. I know I can't really read that great. I can read, but I wouldn't call myself like, I can't read like great. But I look at sheet music all the time, and I'm trying. It's something I'd love to be able to do. It's like in the more, and so I'll go online and just look up sheet music to songs and see it and try to, just something to do, because I'm trying to better myself as a player and evolve and become the better player. The better player than what? The better player than I was yesterday. I'm only competing with myself. I could care less what you do, what you do, what you do, what you do. I don't care. If you're successful and tomorrow you got this crazy opportunity to go do this session, I'm like absolutely so happy for you, because I believe everyone should be competing with themselves. I'm always hungry to learn new stuff, and I just think that it's funny, like I said, because people that don't really know how to read, they're always putting it down, and they'll be like, I don't have to, and then they want to show people that don't read that it's successful. It's like, I just want you to take that and think about this for a second. Imagine if you were illiterate, or you're talking to somebody who's illiterate that cannot read or write the language they speak. And you said to them, I would love to help you learn to read and write. And they said, you know what? This guy was so successful and he never learned to read or write. You would be like, so what? What does that have to do with anything? Don't you want to better yourself? So think about that, because that's how people answered to me when I tried to go over not even so much reading and writing, but just learning the simple theory of learning the keys and learning, the circle of fifths. And people are like, oh, well, Clapton never learned how to read. So you're not Clapton. You know what I mean? Eric Clapton's been playing professionally since 1966, 65. You're not Eric Clapton. And nor should you want to be. The point of the matter is you should want to do it for yourself. And if you don't, hey, that's fine too. But it's just not me. And so like I said, I'm gonna do another video. We're gonna go over the circle of fifths and all that stuff. And of course, I keep doing my rants and raves, and I'll and everything else. But I just think it's something that people should know and take the time to do. I have got to start preparing for my gig. Maybe I'll take some video. I bought one of these cameras. This is a Q2N that I read great reviews on. And I haven't used it yet. So maybe I'll take it out tonight to record the band and show you guys some clips of FM station. It's pretty fun. It's and thanks to Ed Dana who I guess used this camera last week, and I guess said that the audio should be on concert mode for when you are recording loud. So I'll do that. Otherwise the gain is too high. I watched his video and that's what he said. So thanks for that heads up. So I'll definitely do that. I gotta get out of here. Very good.